I have a cue from Alan that we're on air, ready to go. Thank you very much, Council, for attending this meeting. We look forward to getting some business done, so we will call the meeting to order. Before we begin, I'll give a land acknowledgement. We begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and regions of Southwest Middlesex. We convey our respect to our Indigenous neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, community, our past and future partnerships. Before we begin, we've called that meeting to order right at 6. I just want to advise you that there's some planning issues and drainage issues before us. And as you know, Council, these must be accessible to the public. And tonight's agenda contains several of those. Due to the inclement weather, if we get a very short power interruption, it's very difficult for Alan to reboot the media system. We will be down for 15 to 20 minutes if in the event we just get a flicker. And so if that happens, we looked at the convenience of the engineers giving the reports and what we're paying them. We're on the clock, and we will cancel the meeting until our next meeting. I have checked with the CAO. There is nothing urgent on here, but we must have these meetings available for the public. And if in the event the weather turns bad and we do have those power interruption or 2 or 3 power interruptions, we will have to consider canceling the meeting. But hopefully we can get through it. I think the storm system's going through pretty fast. Members of the public may attend the meeting in person at the municipal office at 153 McKellar Street to register electronically. They have contacted the clerk, and today's meeting will be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Council, number 2, are there any members of council declaring a pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? And Councilor Choi, thank you very much for your declaration on that drainage matter. I have the paper in front of me. Are there any others? Seeing none, we will go on to additions to the agenda. Are there any? Okay, I don't see any, and that's great. This is a very report-heavy agenda, so we must start unpacking it. Delegations and presentations. I don't believe there are any. Consent agenda has been circulated. And yes, Alan.
Your Worship, can we get a motion to accept the agenda?
We certainly can. Yeah, therefore, the regular agenda of council dated July 26th be accepted as presented. The mover and the seconder. Councilor Choi, Deputy Mayor Scholdice, all in favor? Carried. The consent agenda has been circulated. If there's any concerns, we can move them to item number 12, or if it's brief, we can deal with them at the present time. Pretty light. Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion that the Council for the Municipality of Southwest Middlesex accept the minutes for the regular meeting held on July 12th. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Vink, Councilor McCollum, all in favor? Carried. Committee of Adjustment, none. Public meetings, none. And staff reports. Stephanie, we will get Stephanie on here, Alan, to walk us through. And as soon as I seen her, there she is right there. Good evening, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm glad you're home safe and sound. You won't be in a tornado while you're driving tonight. Stephanie, can you walk council through the report? I see it's about 34 pages, and bring forward your recommendation.
Certainly. So the purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone the lands from the residential first density zone to a site-specific residential third density zone in order to permit the construction of 24 townhomes on full municipal services. with some requested site-specific zoning provisions, which are outlined in a chart within the report. The statutory public meeting was held on June 28th, 2023, and no oral or written submissions were received from members of the public. A summary of agency comments have been included in the report and have been addressed through this application or will be as part of the subsequent site plan application. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, and the Southwest Middlesex official plan all encourage development within settlement area boundaries on full municipal services. The subject lands are located within the settlement area of Glencoe and will be fully serviced with municipal infrastructure. The lands are designated residential within the Southwest Middlesex official plan and are zoned residential first density within the Southwest Middlesex zoning bylaw, and generally are intended for residential development. Staff are of the opinion that the development proposed to be located adjacent to the existing built-up area has compact form and is considered to be an efficient use of the land. The policy documents encourage municipalities to have a variety of housing types in order to accommodate housing needs of current and future residents. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal, consisting of rental townhomes geared towards seniors, contributes to diversifying the housing accommodations within the settlement area of Glencoe. Staff have requested minimum landscaping requirements be included within the site-specific zoning along all property lines abutting lower residential density to address buffering between the medium and low residential density. And staff have reviewed the site-specific zoning requests and are of the opinion that it will result in a development that maintains an appropriate level of density for the site. It is to be noted that each residential unit has a minimum of 6.5 meter rear yard, as well as a 6 meter front yard to have private amenity space. And there is adequate spacing between the blocks for access and maintenance purposes. Through the agency circulation, CN Rail recommended that a noise analysis be completed, and as such, staff recommend that a holding provision be placed on the subject lands to address that noise study. Additionally, in consultation with Public Works, staff recommend that a holding provision be placed on the land, which requires confirmation of adequate servicing being in place prior to commencement of development. And lastly, in terms of holding provisions, staff recommend that one apply requiring site plan agreement to be completed and that agreement registered on the title of the property. Staff will continue to work through the technical aspects of the proposed development through the site plan control process. So it is recommended that the application be granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Council, any questions? Do you like to address to Stephanie through the chair? Yes, Councilor Vink, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I read your report, Stephanie, and my only concern is the stormwater issue. It says here it's noted as a concern, and it says something about that water release restrictions, and that the development is going to handle the water. I just wondered how is the development going to handle the excess water?
So through the mayor to the councillor, so the site plan control process is where the detailed engineering will be addressed. So that'll be including water, sanitary, and stormwater management. So the municipality would not be in a position to finalize the site plan until all engineering aspects were addressed.
That sounds good. Thank you, Stephanie. Yep. Basically, we're focusing on the planning aspects of it, but that's a very good question, Councilor Vink. I know there is concern in that quadrant, and we'll certainly staff and our professional community will make sure that the I's are dotted before they proceed. Any further questions? Seeing none, there's a recommendation before you. that the zoning bylaw amendment application P4 2023, which proposes to rezone 195 South Street from residential first density holding to specific residential third density holding be granted. Is there a mover and a seconder for that? Yeah. Councillor Myers, Councillor Haggett, discussion. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. We will proceed with the drainage aspects 8B on the agenda. Andrew, the Gardner Drain, can you introduce this to council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The Gardner Drain, many of you may recall this from last year and the year before. The background here, the Gardner Drain in the former township of Eckford was last improved under an engineer's report in 1975. However, as we knew it at the time, based on that 1975 report, the drain terminated as a municipal drain at Tate's Road. However, as a result of this assumption, understanding of where the drain terminated, there was a submission under section 78 to improve the drain downstream. It was recommended that the landowner submit a petition under section 4. No petitions were submitted as a result, and an engineer was not appointed under section 78. Earlier this year, a coordinated search was carried out by staff through multiple files that we have to find that there was a report from 1905 that brought the drain to further downstream to where it comes to the natural water course located at 4195 New Biggin, or Tate's, I'm sorry. So it is after some discussion with the original requester that he resubmit under section 78, that this could include some realignment, some bottom clean out. And as far as the recommendation, I recommend, or staff recommends, that council appoint Spreet Associates under section 78 of the Drainage Act for concession 4 of lot 11, former Eckford Township, to proceed or to produce a report to improve the Gardner Drain based on the request received on May 24th of this year. And also that this project be added to the ongoing project that was submitted, and engineer and Spreets were already appointed under 78.
Thank you, Andrew. In reference to the request for the section 78 on the Gardner Drain, are there any questions council wish to ask Andrew pertaining to this? Yes, go ahead, Councillor McGill.
Yeah, through the mayor to our drainage superintendent, were the landowners upstream of where this work is proposed to be done, were they notified that this will be on the agenda tonight?
Not yet. They will.
No. But just a follow-up question. There was some concern that Mr. Minima would want to close that drain in, but sounds like from what you said, he just wants Spreets would be just looking into cleaning it, possibly realigning it, you said?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that is what I understand, that there are some meanders that are going on in that drain. There is some erosion that is going on. And it is my understanding that some of the meanders be taken out and that the erosion be addressed.
Well, I can support this with the vision that it's not going to be closed in, because I think there's too much. I know sometimes we will close a section of drain in when there's still a bit of ditch on the top end going into an enclosed drain. But there's just too much land upstream that needs to be doing something like that, I think.
Yes, yes, generally speaking, drains are enclosed on the top, if possible. It is generally not on the bottom end of the drain.
Okay. Any further questions from council? Staff made the recommendation that's before you. Is there a mover and a seconder to this? Moved by Deputy Mayor Schuldice. Is there a seconder for this? Councillor McCollum. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Andrew, you get council informed on number 2 on your list of 5 here.
Yes, number 2 is the meeting to consider the Camplin Drain Report. And this is an enclosure under an engineer's report. At this point, I will hand it off to Mike DeVos with the streets office.
Mike, thank you very much. You make yourself comfortable. Council, as you know, there's a procedural steps to this. And we start with the engineering staff will give us an overview of the work required. Welcome, Mike, to Southwest Middlesex. And when you're ready, just dig into it.
Yes, good evening. This report was prepared in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act for repair and improvement to the existing Camplin drain. The landowner on the west half of Lot 20 near the intersection of Dogwood Road and Coltsfoot Drive has requested that the portion of the drain across that property be enclosed with a tile and an overflow swale to accommodate larger rain events. There are several bends along the drain, and due to the soil type as well, it is a common and frequent clean out and process of keeping it maintained properly. And so the landowner requested that a tile be put in adjacent to the channel. We did complete a survey investigation. There was also some discussion with other landowners regarding the very top end of branch A up at Coltsfoot Drive. And there was a portion of the drain within the road allowance on Coltsfoot Drive that was not functioning properly. And there was an old road ditch that was over top of the tile, and it had been altered and the overflow route was no longer working as it did originally. Through discussions with the landowners and through a petition on the stocking drain in the adjacent watershed, it was decided to take that portion where the drain got up to Coltsfoot Drive and crossed Coltsfoot Drive in the west part of Lot 19, to take that water to the proposed stocking drain branch and not require to reconstruct that branch A along Coltsfoot. So in this case, we would actually be abandoning the piece along Coltsfoot Drive instead of improving it. So there is an adjustment to that branch A in terms of an abandonment and a slight adjustment to the watershed. The proposed work includes approximately 390 meters of 750 millimeter diameter tile, which is 30-inch diameter tile, catch basin at the upper end, and then control drop weir at the termination of the tile where the water reaches Dogwood Road and goes through the culvert. So that would be able to drop the excess surface water down into the existing municipal drain. There was also a request by the road department to replace the culvert under Dogwood. So there is a new culvert of similar size being recommended to be put across Dogwood Road. There is maintenance that's required in the Camplin drain downstream. As I mentioned, the soils and it is a frequent occurrence. So there is going to need to be maintenance done to provide that drain be brought back to its original drain design, which is roughly 1979. That's basically it in a nutshell. I would bring up at this time that I did receive a question from the landowner who wasn't able to attend previous meetings. So this was the first conversation I had had with the landowner, that there is a small area on the south side of Coltsfoot Drive that is shown to be within the watershed area. There's a natural low area there where the water would go from the south side to the north side into branch A. And at some point in the time in the past, when Coltsfoot Drive was reconstructed, they removed the surface culvert. And so the water on that side of the road can no longer get into the Camplin drain. And so the landowner was concerned that they're being assessed money to contribute towards the project when their water can no longer get to the drain, which I sympathize with the landowner. And if I was in that position, I would probably have a similar opinion. So this is the consideration meeting, and it deals with design. It's a small area that won't affect the design as a whole, but I think we'll need to have some conversations with the municipality and maybe staff regarding the best way to handle that assessment. There'll most likely be a recommendation from me, the engineer, prior to the quarter revision to make an adjustment to that assessment. I don't know exactly how or what at this point, but that property should probably be removed from the assessment schedule. So that's just a minor thing that occurred in the recent past here. I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you, Mike. Staff, the second part of this is questions from any affected property owners who are present. Are there any property owners on the drain that wish to ask and make some inquiries or ask some questions? Okay, council, any questions on your part? Okay, we're okay there. And then the third item, a request from those present to add or remove their names from the petition. And seeing any, moving on, council, any comments or questions that you'd like to put forth to the chair and to the drainage engineer? Seeing none, the recommendation that council accept the engineer's report in reference to the Camplin Drain 2023 and refers the bylaw to the bylaw section of the agenda for first and second reading. Is there a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Vink. Seconder for that, please. Councillor McCollum. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Mike, if you'd like to move on to the stocking drain, if you could introduce the subject to council and bring forward your recommendation.
Yes, this drain in this report was prepared in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act for repair and improvement to the existing branch 2 of the stocking drain, and then a petition was submitted, so Section 4, to construct new branches 3, 3A, and 2A. Currently, there is a drain servicing the area where branch 3 is proposed, but it was an award drain, an older award drain constructed under the Ditches and Watercourses Act. So it's not covered under the Drainage Act. So a new petition was submitted for that particular area. As mentioned in the meeting for the Camplin drain, we are extending the one branch a little bit further out of the watershed up to Coltsfoot Drive to capture an area at Coltsfoot Drive that would have gone down the Camplin drain branch A, but it made sense to come up this direction from an economics point of view to add that particular small area to the watershed. There is watershed around that, which is naturally tributary to branch 3. So it's an additional area that's being included. The existing tile on branch 2 will actually be replaced and destroyed with a small branch 2A off of that, heading north to service a small sub-watershed area, which separately currently would go across the Stalker property to the Stalking Drain main drain. The drains themselves, the branch 3 would consist of 24-inch diameter tile in the bottom stretch, and then it would switch to 15-inch down to 10-inch by the time we get to the top end. Branch 3A, which is again a small sub-watershed of branch 3, would have a 12-inch diameter pipe, and then branch 2 will be replaced with 15-inch diameter pipe. 2A will be 12-inch diameter pipe. The landowner petitioning, in this case, requested that the design be increased from what the Ministry of Ag and Foods recommendations or current standards would be, and also what they provide granting on, which is 1.5 inches or 38 millimeters per 24 hours, up to a 2-inch coefficient to provide some additional capacity. The dollars involved aren't huge to change. In this case, it was roughly one pipe size larger. So that cost was added to the project and charged that particular landowner who requested the increase in design. There is going to be catch basins installed at fence rows and at the road to try and capture surface water. The newer drains do have bigger capacity, which allow more surface water into them. There may be other private surface inlets which landowners may add on at a later date. And I would stop and open up to questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. DeVos. Questions from any affected property owners who are present? This is the opportunity to ask. Yes, go ahead. And Alan will make sure you're comfortable there. He'll get you a chair and just come on up, and you're at home here. So we'll try to get an answer to your question.
Your name.
Yeah, if you could just state your name for the record.
So hi, I'm Lenore Patterson and I'm representing Ann Stalker tonight and her property. I just have a quick question about branch 3. It is a solid concrete branch going through our property. And we are charged about 14% of the total cost of branch 3. How do we get benefit from that?
Go ahead, Michael.
Yes, benefit is defined in the Drainage Act as increased crop production, increased land value, better aesthetics, better control of surface water, and better control of subsurface water. So by installing a new drain to replace the old ward drain, you will have a new system that will provide better drainage and longer drainage. The old system is not going to be functioning and won't have the life left in it. And so by definition, that property will receive benefit by having this new drain there. There'll be less water, both for duration and also on top of the ground. So under the ground being delivered by subsurface pipes. If the property wishes to tile, there'll be a bigger outlet that'll work better for the property. Whether this property is particularly tiled this time, I don't know. There may be private tiles that are connected to it, but typically the private tiles don't last forever, and they do get replaced. More so as time has gone on, landowners have done more systematic tiling versus random tiling. So it's not just for now, it's also for the future.
So then I guess even though it is a concrete tile, the benefits are subsurface water and just
yeah, the tile itself will still provide some drainage. It's not completely sealed. There will be butt end joints that are wrapped with geotextile that will still draw water down. But the main intention of this particular drain is not to drain the ground. There's the side benefit that it'll drain maybe 25 feet each way from it. In sand ground, it might draw a little farther than it would be in clay ground. But the main purpose is to provide a place for other tiles that are connected to it and to reduce the surface water. So you're providing a mechanism to get water from your property and from upstream through the property safely and keep your property drier.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Krista Benson. So then we would only be allowed to tie in at the outlets, at the catch basins, or
You can tie in wherever you like. You typically, the contractors would typically submit something to the municipality to make sure they're okay with it. You don't want them connecting every 50 feet, every 40 feet with all your tiles. They'll
Yeah.
typically put some sort of header tile down beside it and then connect it at logical places every so often. So it would be a subsurface connection with a core hole in the side of the concrete tile, put a plastic adapter and connect the new pipe to it. And that may happen with tiles that we find. Well, we'll be connecting any tiles that are there. We have an item in the estimate to allow for connecting things that are underground.
Okay, sounds good.
fair enough.
Well, yeah, well, Nora, Krista, thank you very much for those questions, and we'll proceed on with that. And any other questions from anyone else in attendance? Then we'll proceed to comments or questions from the council on the horseshoe here. Council, any questions you'd like to ask to Mike through the chair? Mike DeVos. Seeing none. It comes time to make a decision on this. The council accepts the engineer's report in reference to the stocking drain branch 2 and 3, 2023, and refers the bylaw to the bylaw section of the agenda for first and second reading. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councilor McGill, Councilor Vink. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Councilor Vink.
The engineer talked about the original person that asked for the drain is going to pay for the increased cost. Is that through the whole drain or is this on their property?
That's for the whole drain. The entire, because the petitioner is the upstream property, we had to make the drain from the top all the way to the outlet bigger. But because they were the only landowners requesting it, they had to pay the entire cost for the whole drain to be upsized.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Martin, good question. Okay, we will move on to the code drain. Mr. DeVos, get apprise council of this.
Yes, similar to the last one, this report was prepared in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act for repair and improvement to the existing code drain, as well as the construction of a new branch drain as a sub watershed within the area of the code drain. The original code drain was constructed roughly in 1955 and is in poor condition, small by today's design standards, and suffering physically from issues of some of the large rain events that have been going on over the years. So the landowners requested that we replace the old drain. So we will be destroying the old tile, except within the top property on the Adobe property. We'll be leaving the existing tile there to become a header tile, as a lot of those private tiles that I mentioned in the previous meeting are connected directly to that, and the landowner requested that that tile be kept. And it would be abandoned from being municipal drain and become a private header tile for the particular landowner in that. It's a relatively small diameter pipe in that particular area because the watershed is quite small on the upper portion of the main drain. It was also requested by the landowners. Some of the bigger issues as you go further downstream on this drain is there is significant grade So there's a lot of fall and slope to the drain, and so the water on top of the ground is moving quite fast, and it erodes the soil, and there's quite a bit of erosion there. So the landowners requested we could do whatever we can to try and help that situation out. So we are looking to add some features to the drain to help try and slow the water down by capturing it in places where it makes sense physically to try and hold water. Let it go down the drain after the rain event stops and not have as much water go over top. There may be times in rain events that are still bigger than what these pipes can handle, but at least this is one step further to try and hold some of that water back and not let it go downstream as fast and cause the problems. So there's an acronym that the Ministry of Agriculture and Food has added to these features, and they're called WASCOBs, and that stands for Water and Soil Control Basins or berms. And so there is a whole design brief or design paper that the ministry has provided to engineers to add these features. There is starting to show up in some of the conservation authorities are starting to provide some funding in places to try to add these things to projects. So it is something in the last 5 to 7 years that is starting to become a little more prevalent. And my guess is you might see more of it in the future. In this particular case, we're not doing a lot of them, but there is one being constructed on the main drain downstream of the laneway. So what it is just an oversized berm where it's taller and higher and tries to pond some more water on the upstream side of it. The catch basins, both at the roads and at the laneway, we will be putting in some concrete blocks again to dam up some of the water, let it pond and fill up slowly before it starts pouring in through the surface culverts and continuing downstream. There are catch basins on the upstream side of all these structures so that after the rain event, the water can then enter the drain when the drain can handle it and go downstream through the pipe at a little bit later time. The pipe sizes in this case range from 16 inches to 8 inches in diameter. There will be sewer pipe in a number of places to cross roads and laneways. The road department requested that we replace the surface culverts while we were in there digging across the road. They were old and in poor condition. And so there will be surface culverts and subsurface drains installed across the road in the 2 locations. And I would stop and open up to questions.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Questions from any affected property owners first? And the chair must ask those present to add or remove any names from the petition. Seeing none. Council, any questions you'd like to ask Mr. DeVos through the chair? Yes, Councilor Vink, please go ahead.
Mayor Allen, you mentioned about the surface drain. Would everybody on that particular drain have to pay for that extra cost?
Yes, it is an assessment against the whole watershed. Landowners in the past or traditionally might have been asking for more things like a grass waterway and things like that, and they can be part of a municipal drain, and they do service an area where water's coming from other properties through this property. So yes.
Okay, any other questions from council? Seeing none, the recommendation is before you, council. What's your wish? To accept the recommendation? Is there a mover and a seconder? Councilor Haggett. Seconder, Councilor Vink. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Okay. We're on to the MacArthur drain. Oh, you're it. You got it. We've got them all, eh? Yep. Okay. We've got them all. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Okay. That's good. No, let's proceed and we'll get them all done. The
Okay.
hydro hasn't gone out
Sorry
yet.
about that. I didn't know that one was on the agenda for
Good.
tonight. I knew the other ones were. Again, similar to the first drain, this report was prepared in accordance with section 78 of the Drainage Act for repair and improvement to the existing MacArthur drain. The main property, in this case, it's not the whole drain, but the main property is the southwest quarter of lot 10, the Galbraith property. And the existing tile in that area is an older tile dated approximately 1958. So the landowner, similar to the other projects, felt that the drain was old, a little shallow and undersized to the design's needs and standards, and requested that that drain be replaced. So we completed a survey, come up with some recommendations, and we're recommending an 18-inch diameter tile be constructed and remove the old drain across the southwest quarter. The existing drain will still exist and be part of the drain upstream of that through the next property. And we have provided provisions for future maintenance of that to be included as part of this report. We are recommending that a minor deepening of the open channel immediately downstream of that, and that it's part of branch A and a very short piece of the main drain. We're talking deepening it in the range of 6 inches. Not a lot, but in this case, the ditch bottom is quite narrow and can't deepen it without trying to take material off the side to make sure that the side slopes are stable. If we made it any deeper and trying to make those side slopes steeper, we would be opening it up for future erosion. It's not a big cost in this case because it's a short distance and a small quantity, but it is part of this report. There are some tiles or areas that are tiled in different directions against the grain or against the natural slope, and those areas are shown on the plan to show where subsurface water and surface water are going in different directions, but that's all been accommodated in the design. We are recommending that a new catch basin and berm be put in at the top end of our work, which is the line fence between lot 10 and 11. And I'd stop and open up to questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeVos. Questions from affected property owners? I see there's some in the gallery. Any questions? Okay. We're all cool there. Requests from those present to add or remove their names from the petition? Seeing none. Council, any questions that you would like to ask Mike DeVos through the chair? Seeing none, we come to our decision. The council accept the engineer's report in reference to the MacArthur Drain, Branch A, 2023, and refers the bylaw to the bylaw section of the agenda for a first and second reading. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor Myers, seconder. Councillor McCollum, questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. DeVos. I have to call you Mr. DeVos because the room is full of mics in here tonight. So it's not that I'm being formal, but every time I say Mike, everyone looks at me. Or half the horseshoe look at me. But thanks very much, Michael, for taking us by the hand. And Andrew, thank you very much for the work you did. We know that you're behind the scenes there, but you've been chalking up the hours on these two. Thank you again to our drainage superintendent. Thank you, council. Moving on to number 9 in the agenda, notices of motion. I have not received any. Correspondence and petition. None. Unfinished business. Michael, I haven't been advised of anyone. New business. I don't believe there's any. County council and conference updates, 13A. Don, would you like to speak to this? You're certainly welcome to if you wish. And we can do it in an informal manner. I don't think any action, providing no action is required, we can just have a chat about it.
Yes, I don't have much to report on this here. It's more or less in Brooke Elvingston's hand, because they have to give us permission for a demolition permit. And the Heritage Act has to be removed too before we can do anything. Now, this all started on the 22nd of June at our last council, or at last Sinclair meeting, that this all come to a head. And there's Friends of the Park that started a group there that wants to become a non-profitable organization to see whether they can raise some money to put into this. Other than that, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. That's my thought, because as you read the report there, that our insurance company won't cover it right now. And both building inspectors from Middlesex and Lambton has condemned it. So really, there's much more I can say. And I went to Brooke Elvingston's meeting there 2 weeks ago tomorrow, and they presented a case where the Friends of the Park presented a case where they were wanting 3 years to start their program up. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Brooke Elvingston delayed it till tomorrow night meeting. So that's all I can say.
Yep. I'm sure there'll be maybe some questions. Councilor McGill, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I was asked to sit on the committee for the Friends of Campbell Park, and I've been on it for a couple of years now. But I haven't really said too much at the meetings because I didn't want to be in conflict with anything. I just wanted to bring information back to Southwest Middlesex and Glencoe District Historical Society. They're interested in the Campbell House. But one thing I can say is there was a huge windstorm in Elvingston last week, and there was an awful lot of property damage. But that old Campbell House is standing fine. Wasn't damaged at all. The Friends of Campbell Park sent pictures, and no damage at all there. So built in, I think 1867. Yeah, and
Any further questions or comments? Don, if I could, council, give me the pleasure of stepping in here. Don, the projected costs are around $500,000 to restore that. Is that correct? Yeah.
We put a new roof on it 2 years ago, and it's the only good part about it. But it's a square building. There's no question about that. But there's no underneath to it, no bottom to it at all.
Well, Glencoe has had experience with that in building. We lifted up the train station. It had nothing underneath it and relocated it, but that was a long time ago, and the cost exceeded $300,000, and that was in 1987 thereabouts it began. And I think the cost exceeded $300,000, and that was a substantial long time ago. It can be done, but it takes a great amount of volunteerism in those days. Completed that project, and it may have been a different time and day back then. Okay, last call for questions on that. We can move on. That was provided. Alan, I'll just check with you. We do not need a resolution of council on that in any way.
Your worship, this was brought forward as a conversation. No action is required.
Thank you very much. Just checking with you. Okay, and Dawn, thank you very much for providing that. It's much appreciated. Any announcements? Yes, Martin, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I attended the Brook Elliston Fire meeting yesterday. They're going to probably get a new pumper in August, they're hoping. So I'm not sure if that would affect our budget or not. And also, they've come up with a new fire service agreement. Our existing agreement runs out the end of this year. And I know probably Alan and Mike are aware of it, but it's something that council has to pass. And so hopefully it will come to council in the near future. And I'm thinking that maybe the fire chief should be notified about the agreement as well. And I do recall that there was some talk that we should be reviewing. I'm not in favor of reviewing. I'm quite satisfied with the agreement we have. But in fairness to everybody, they should have a little time to look at the agreement.
Okay, I'm sure staff are looking after it and we've given them a heads up. Mike, would you like to discuss that at all?
A heads up on that. The fire chief has the agreement. The fire chief's deputy has the agreement. And they have been reviewing it and providing their comments back to me already. Alan keeps putting it in front of me over the next, for the past couple of weeks as a priority. So yes, it'll come back, but it has been under review and we've gone through it relatively extensively from the fire perspective. So we're aware of it. We know, but we'll leave our thoughts to there.
Good. Thank you. Well, it's in good hands. Any further announcements? Yes, Deputy Mayor Schuldeis.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. The Eckford Museum Board members will be celebrating the 200th anniversary of the incorporation of the Township of Eckford at the Appin Ballpark this Saturday. There will be a car show, church breakfast, playground ribbon cutting, alumni barbecue lunch, and a whole lot more. So everybody's welcome to attend.
Yep, there's a lot going on there. I hope the weather cooperates, Michael, for that. Councilor McGill, there's a church dinner coming up. Is there not?
Looks like news to him.
Oh, we've already had that. You're right. You're right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, the church, the chair apologizes for that. In August, I thought. Not a pork farm. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you owe the chair an explanation that there is a church dinner. So just remember that. Okay. Because I thought I was solicited by someone in church on Sunday.
There's a church did you mention the church breakfast?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, in Appin, I
At
think.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. You're never short of food in Southwest Middlesex.
What, in Appin?
Yep. Okay. Breakfast and that.
I believe there's two breakfasts in Appin, one Saturday and one on Sunday.
Okay. There we go. We hope no one will go hungry. Okay. I think that important element of business is done discussing. Okay. Council, we must go into closed session. Okay, just there. Okay. All right. Okay, nothing. That's good. I thought something might have come up here. Council, the bylaws are before you. I know they're numerous. There are 4 regarding the drainage matters on the Camplin drain, the Stocking drain, the Code drain, and the MacArthur drain. Would you move first and second reading on 16A to 16B? May I have that? Moved by Councillor Vink, seconded by Councillor McCollum. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 16E, a bylaw to amend the zoning, the property known as 195 South Street, and the confirmatory bylaw 16F. Would someone entertain moving that and seconding that? Councillor Choi. Councillor Hagan, discussion? All in favor? Carried. And future meetings, subject to change, the staff will advise you of that. And council, we will adjourn the meeting at 6:56. 6:56. Thank you very much. Well, council, we got